right, let's paint a picture for you. Think about Kerala, down in South India. Alappuzha.
The backwater.
Exactly. Those famous backwaters, coconut groves everywhere, that misty green sort of feel.
Humid, yeah.
And right there, on Beach Road, there's this big old mansion. Kadal Veedu, it means house by the sea.
Sounds quite idyllic, actually.
It really does. But there's a story attached to it, a much, much darker one.
Right, because for, over a century now, the stories say there's this object originally from that house that's just been a source of pure terror.
A doll. And not, a cute little porcelain thing.
Definitely not. This is Rava's doll.
And the descriptions you hear, well, they make your skin crawl. Stuffed with straw, apparently. Faded clothes, really worn. And the eyes.
Black beads. Just black beads, but people swear they follow you around the room.
It's got this reputation, maybe the most terrifying haunted doll in India.
That's what they say. A reputation built over generations, really.
So that's what we're doing today. We're going deep into these stories, trying to unpack all the accounts, the whispers, the details surrounding this thing.
What exactly is this doll? Where did it come from?
And why are people so deeply afraid of it? Let's try and piece it together.
Okay, so the story seems to kick off around 1905.
Right. End of British rule looming. Big changes happening.
And somewhere near Thrissur, a place known for older traditions, even occult stuff, some unknown artisan makes this doll.
It wasn't just made on a whim, though, was it? It was a gift.
That's the story for a little boy 6 years old, Raghav Menon.
And his family, they weren't just ordinary folk.
No, very wealthy. Huge paddy fields, successful spice trading business, big players in the area.
A gift for a kid from a powerful family.
But even from the start, the descriptions say the doll was off, unsettling.
How so?
Well, it was apparently quite large for a toy back then, carved wooden face. And it had this smirk, a fixed, sinister smirk. Not exactly comforting.
Definitely not something you'd want staring at you from the nursery shelf.
Exactly. And straight away, you get these two completely different stories about where it came from, like competing whispers.
Okay, what's the first one? The official version.
That's the family heirloom angle. Raghava's grandfather, Keshava Menon, respected figure, head of the family, he supposedly commissioned it.
From who?
A master craftsman, top quality. Made with fine silk from their own looms, a status symbol, a gesture of love for the grandson. That's story number one.
Sounds nice enough.
Yeah.
But there's another one.
Oh yeah, the darker one. The one you'd hear muttered in the markets, maybe in the toddy shops late at night.
Go on.
This one points to a woman named Amini. She used to be a servant in the Menon household.
Okay.
But she was supposedly skilled in tantric practices. Ritual, some maybe leaning towards the forbidden side. And the story goes, she was accused of theft. Wrongfully, they say. Publicly shamed. Thrown out.
So she was angry.
Furious. And according to this version, she performed a Kala Jadoo ritual. Black magic, basically.
To do what?
To get revenge. She supposedly bound a malevolent spirit, maybe a preta, a restless ghost, or a yaksha, a kind of nature spirit, often nasty, into that very doll.
Binding it to the doll.
To curse the entire Menon family, put a blight on them.
Wow, so a loving gift versus a vessel for a curse. That's quite the contrast for a kid's toy.
It really is. And young Raghav himself, the accounts describe him as quite sensitive, a bit of a loner.
And he took to the doll.
Obsessively. Became completely fixated on it, clung to it all the time.
Even though it was apparently quite big and heavy.
Yep. Lugged it around the mansion. Didn't see anything wrong with it. He called it his friend.
But others in the house didn't feel the same way.
Not at all. The servants especially, they were the ones dealing with it day to day, and they got really unnerved by it.
That stare? Maybe.
That stare, yeah. They felt those bead eyes watching them. They apparently started avoiding looking at it directly. It just felt wrong to them.
More than just a creepy toy.
Definitely. And that feeling, that wrongness, it didn't stay just a feeling for long. Things started happening in the house.
What kind of things?
Physical stuff. Soon after the doll arrived, the stories tell of objects just shattering for no reason.
Like what?
Brass lamps crashing down, clay pots breaking. Even, get this, sacred sandalwood idols found smashed. Just chaos, unexplained destruction.
That's unsettling. And his mother, Lakshmi, did she notice?
She definitely did. There's this one account, really disturbing. She supposedly heard Raghava whispering to the doll late one night.
Okay, maybe just a kid talking to his toy.
But then she heard something else, a second voice, answering him back.
No.
Yeah, A guttural sound, she described it. Definitely not her son's voice.
Oh, that's terrifying. What about all the broken things? Did they ask Raghav?
They did, but he apparently wouldn't admit to anything. He'd just break down, sobbing, eyes wide with fear, saying, Raghav did it.
Blaming the doll.
Pointing right at the doll, as if it was the one doing it all.
And the servants. Their stories got worse.
They did. They started swearing they actually saw the doll's head turn, following them as they walked past.
Seriously.
Especially, they said, in the flickering light from the oil lamps at night. And that smirk? They claimed it would seem to widen, get more menacing in the shadows.
Okay, that's pure nightmare fuel.
There's this one specific incident people talk about, a really stormy night, thunder booming, the backwaters outside going wild.
Setting the scene.
Right. Lakshmi goes to check on Raghav, finds his room completely wrecked, furniture thrown over, valuable old palm leaf manuscripts torn to shreds.
And Raghav.
Cowering in the corner, clutching the doll, screaming his head off. He's angry, he's angry.
Referring to the doll again.
Seems like it. But here's where it gets really chilling.
What happened?
The very next morning, they get news. A neighbor's fishing boat out on the backwaters. It just sank. No clear reason why. Just gone.
And people connected it.
Immediately. That incident, right after the chaos in Raghav's room, that's when the talk of a curse, specifically tied to the doll, really took hold in the town. It wasn't just weird stuff inside the house anymore. It felt like it was reaching out.
So Raghav grows up under this shadow.
Pretty much. He became an artist, apparently quite talented too, but the accounts always emphasize his life was just dominated by this doll.
He never got rid of it.
Never. Couldn't bring himself to. It's really remarkable. He took it with him when he went away to study art at Santiniketan.
Which is a famous arts place, right?
Exactly. And then later he gets married in 1932 to Saraswati, a graceful Bharatanatyam dancer.
And the doll.
Came right back with them to Kadal Veedu. The doll was part of the marriage, essentially.
Oh, poor Saraswati. How did she feel about it?
You can imagine. The stories say she grew to absolutely hate it, despised its presence in her home.
I bet. Was she the only one feeling it?
No, others felt it too in that generation. Guests who stayed at the mansion reported things.
Like what?
Footsteps, creaking sounds from the attic, which is apparently where Raghav often kept the doll. Some people even claimed its eyes would glow faintly in the dark.
And outside the house too.
Yeah, there were stories. Local kids riding their bikes past Kadal Veedu would swear they saw its silhouette up in an upstairs window.
Just standing there.
A little figure watching. And then they'd blink, look again, and it would be gone.
Creepy. Did Saraswati ever talk about her fears?
She reportedly confided in her sister. She was convinced the doll's expression actually changed.
Changed how?
Specifically, if anyone said anything bad about Raghav or criticized his paintings, the doll's smirk would twist into this really nasty scowl.
Okay, wow. And did anything happen because of that?
Well, there's a story directly linked to it. One night, they had a guest over who apparently made fun of Raghav's art quite openly.
Oh.
Shortly after, this guest fell incredibly ill. Mysteriously ill. And they were found covered in these inexplicable burns all over their body. Urns. And everyone, or at least the storytellers, attributed it directly to the doll getting angry, protecting Raghav.
Did the family try to do anything?
Yeah.
Like spiritually?
They did. They brought in the family priest, Swami Narayanan. He performed a puja.
A cleansing ritual?
Yeah, a Hindu ritual specifically meant to ward off evil spirits, negative energy. They tried to purify the house.
Did it work? On the doll?
According to the accounts, no. The doll remained completely unaffected. If anything, its presence, that heavy feeling in the house, only seemed to get stronger afterwards, more oppressive, like the ritual provoked it.
So the doll just stayed?
It stayed. Outlasted Raghav, who died in 1975. Outlasted Saraswati, who died just 2 years later in 1977. It remained in Kadal Veedu.
Waiting. So who got the house and the doll next?
It passed to a distant cousin, a woman named Meera Nair.
And what was she like?
The accounts describe her as very rational, a school teacher, the type you'd expect to be completely skeptical about ghosts and curses.
And was she?
Yeah, totally. She apparently scoffed at all the local rumors about Kadal Veedu and the doll, thought it was all just superstition, old wives' tales.
But living there changed her mind.
Drastically, according to the stories. It didn't take long. She started hearing things.
Like what?
Laughter. Giggling, almost. coming from the attic where the doll was presumably stored, when nobody was up there.
Okay, that's unnerving.
And she reportedly saw the doll move, not dramatically, but she'd put it somewhere tucked away and later find it in a slightly different position on its own.
Subtle but creepy.
And then one night, she felt something physical, an icy, cold grip clamping onto her wrist while she was in bed, in the dark.
Okay, that's crossing a line.
It was, but the final straw, the thing that completely shattered her skepticism. It was terrifying.
What was it?
She said she woke up one night and saw the doll's shadow looming over her bed. Tall, distorted in the low light.
Just the shadow.
And then she heard it whisper her name. Mira?
Nope. I'd be gone.
She was. The accounts say she fled the house that very night, didn't even pack properly, just ran. Couldn't stand another second in there.
I don't blame her. But what does she do with the doll? You can't just throw something like that away, can you? Especially if you believe it's active.
Exactly. Maybe she feared repercussions. So in 1995, she did something quite practical in a way. She donated Raghav's doll to the Alappuzha Heritage Museum.
Gave it away.
Yep. And supposedly vowed she would never, ever set foot in Kadal Veedu again. Getting rid of the doll, giving it a new home, was her escape route.
So, a museum. That's where it is now.
That's where it is now, the Alappuzha Heritage Museum. But it's not just sitting on a shelf with other artifacts.
No. How is it displayed?
It's in a reinforced glass case, apparently quite thick glass, and all around the case, etched into brass plates, are protective mantras.
Seriously. The museum put those there.
That's the story. Explicit measures taken by the museum staff themselves to try and contain whatever energy or spirit is associated with the doll.
Wow. What does it look like now, after all this time?
Even more menacing, they say. Its wooden face is weathered, scarred from decades of handling, maybe worse. The traditional mundu it wears is tattered, frayed. Age hasn't softened it, it's amplified the creepiness.
And the curator there, what do they think?
Well, the current curator, Anand Pillai, he reportedly started out as a total skeptic when the doll arrived. Just another artifact with some folklore attached.
But not anymore.
Not anymore. The accounts say his own experiences in the museum have made him a believer. A reluctant one, maybe, but a believer nonetheless.
What kind of experiences?
He reports ongoing strange occurrences. Flickering lights specifically around the doll's exhibit, sudden inexplicable cold spots near the case, and seeing the doll's head tilted slightly differently when he knows no one's been near it.
Just small movements.
Small but impossible to explain rationally, according to him. And it's not just him or the staff. Visitors report things too.
What do visitors experience?
There's this persistent story, almost a warning now. People who mock the doll, laugh at it, or especially try to take photos without sort of asking permission or offering a silent prayer. They suffer bad luck afterwards.
Bad luck like what? Stubbing your toe.
More serious than that, according to the tales. People losing their jobs unexpectedly, suffering broken bones and accidents. And the most chilling one, mysterious drownings in the backwaters, all lacked back by believers to disrespecting the doll.
Drownings. That's incredibly dark.
It is, and you can actually see evidence of this fear right there in the museum.
How?
Near the doll's case, the walls are apparently lined with letters, apology notes.
From visitors?
From terrified visitors. Begging Raghava, they address the doll directly for forgiveness for being disrespectful during their visit, pleading for the perceived curse to be lifted.
That's incredible. Physical proof of the fear it inspires.
There's even a story about a celebrity encounter that gets told a lot. Back in 2005, a very famous Malayalam film star, Vikram Suresh, from Mollywood, the Kerala film industry, he apparently bought a replica of the doll.
Just a copy. For what?
As a prop for a horror movie he was making.
Okay.
Days after beating this replica, he was in a horrific car accident, nearly died.
Wait.
And he claimed afterwards that just before the crash, he glanced in his rearview mirror and saw the doll's face staring back at him.
The replica's face. Or the originals.
The implication is the doll's face. Like, even the copy carried its malevolent influence. That story really cemented its reputation further.
Bet. Any other museum stories?
Guards have their own tales. Hearing soft chanting sounds late at night near the exhibit in a language they don't recognize. Some even claim they've seen the doll's kurta, its little shirt, move slightly, as if it were breathing.
Breathing? Oh, come on.
That's what they report. Curator Anand Pillai, he takes it all seriously enough that he insists on maintaining a respectful distance, and he personally lights a daya, a little oil lamp near the case, every single day.
As an offering. Or
Yeah.
protection.
Maybe both. A small daily ritual, just trying to keep the spirit calm, keep it at bay.
It's just amazing how this story has grown. It's a proper legend in Kerala now, isn't it?
Absolutely. Some people say it's even more famous, more talked about than other regional ghost stories, like the Yakshi of Palakkad, which is another famous female vampire spirit legend.
And it's crossed over into popular culture, too.
Definitely. That Mollywood thriller back in 2010, Kadal Rakshas, meaning sea demon, was directly inspired by the doll's story.
So it draws people in.
Oh, massively. Its whole eerie vibe attracts occult followers, paranormal investigators, but also just everyday people looking for a thrill, you know? A spooky story that feels real.
And the museum uses this.
They really lean into it now. Get this, the doll apparently has its own Instagram page.
All has Instagram.
With thousands of followers. They post updates about its supposed latest pranks or strange happenings around it.
It's modern haunting.
Isn't it? And when they had a special paranormal exhibit about the doll's history at the Kerala Cultural Fest in 2018, it drew record crowds. Though, maybe unsurprisingly, quite a few attendees reported having nightmares afterwards.
I'm not surprised. Do they encourage interaction at the museum?
In a very specific way. They encourage visitors to leave traditional offerings like coconut flowers or sandalwood paste near the case. Respectful gestures.
And they engage with the legend directly.
They do. Apparently, if kids write letters to the doll, the museum staff sometimes write back as Raghav, keeping the whole story alive, making it interactive for a new generation.
Wow, there's even a historian involved.
Yeah, a local historian, Priya Varghese. She's reportedly studied the doll, the house, and all the surrounding accounts for decades. She even gives guided tours related to it.
What does she advise?
She always warns visitors. Speak softly in its presence. Show respect. It just shows how deeply embedded this belief is in the local community. It's not just a story. For many, it's a real presence to be cautious around.
So with this huge collection of stories, these incidents spanning over 100 years, people must have theories, right? About what is actually going on.
Yeah.
What's supposedly haunting this doll.
Absolutely. And the accounts themselves reflect different attempts to explain it, different theories circulate.
Like what? What are the main ones?
Well, you've got the original tantric ritual theory. That goes right back to Amini, the disgraced servant.
The curse.
Exactly. The idea that a specific malevolent entity like a preta or a yaksha was deliberately bound to the doll through black magic to enact revenge on the Menon family.
Okay, that's theory one. What else?
Then there's the idea Mira Nair, the cousin who inherited the house, briefly considered. The trapped soul theory.
Like a ghost?
Yeah, maybe the spirit of a child somehow got trapped within the doll. But then you look at some of the reported actions, the burns, the drownings, the sheer vindictiveness, and it feels much darker than just a lost child spirit.
Doesn't quite fit the level of malice.
Seems that way to many. Then, of course, you have the skeptical viewpoint, the mass hysteria theory.
Explain that one.
This argues that it all started with Raghav's known eccentricities as a child, maybe some odd behavior as an adult, combined with his family's wealth and status, making them targets for gossip.
So, just stories getting out of hand.
Pretty much. Maybe a few strange things happened, coincidences. But fear took over. People started blaming everything on the doll. The story grew, got embellished over generations, passed down not because it was true, but because fear and fascination kept it alive. The power of suggestion, essentially.
Right. And is there a more sort of religious or supernatural explanation?
There is. Some priests or spiritual figures who've encountered the legend propose the demonic presence theory.
Demonics.
They suggest the doll isn't just cursed or haunted by a ghost, but it actually houses something more inherently evil, like a pishacha.
What's a pishacha?
In Hindu folklore, it's often described as a particularly malevolent type of flesh-eating demon or entity that thrives on chaos, misery, and feeds on fear itself.
So 4 very different takes. Intentional curse, trapped soul, mass delusion, or an actual demon.
Exactly, and looking at them all really shows you the different ways people try to make sense of things they can't explain, doesn't it? Through magic, psychology, spirituality.
It really does. But whatever the explanation people lean towards, the fear itself, the dread surrounding Raghav's doll in these accounts, is undeniable. What is it about this specific object that makes it so terrifying to so many?
Well, part of it, you have to admit, is just its appearance now.
The way it looks.
Yeah, that weathered, cracked wooden face, those empty-looking black bead eyes, the tattered old clothes. It just looks inherently creepy, like something out of a horror film, but real.
It sets the stage.
Definitely. But the real terror, the deep dread, comes from the stories. The sheer weight of the narrative built up over more than a century.
It's not just, it feels creepy.
No.
Yeah.
It's this doll is blamed for specific tragedies. That boat sinking back in 1905, unexplained illnesses and deaths, accidents happening to people who supposedly disrespected it just recently in the museum. These concrete events linked directly to the doll give the fear real teeth.
And the way people react to it now reinforces that.
Absolutely. The rituals that have sprung up around it, the fact that people genuinely feel they need to ask its permission before taking a picture. That pile of physical apology letters from visitors terrified they've angered it. The reported eerie, heavy silence in its part of the museum. All of that creates this palpable atmosphere of real dread. You feel the fear of others.
And the narrative presented in these accounts insists it's not just folklore.
Exactly. Unlike a movie monster, the stories emphasize that for those who believe, for those who claim to have felt its influence, Raghav's doll is terrifyingly real. Its curse isn't just a story, it's presented as an undeniable force by those who say they've experienced its wrath.
It really does blur that line between a historical artifact, a piece of folklore, and something actively malevolent.
Completely. It exists in that unsettling space where history and legend meet.
Well, this has been quite the journey into the shadows. We've gone deep into this incredible and, frankly, terrifying story of Raghav's doll.
From its strange beginnings back in 1905 Kerala, through the generations of this one family seemingly haunted by it,
Right up to its current, very public home in a museum where the strange occurrences apparently haven't stopped.
And you know, this story, like so many powerful legends tied to a place in its past, it really does highlight the incredible power of belief, doesn't it?
How a story can take root and grow.
And how it can shape perception, how people interpret events, and maybe, just maybe, according to the believers, how it can actually influence the world around us.
It definitely taps into that deep human fascination with the unknown, the things we can't easily explain. That little shiver of possibility that maybe some objects do hold something else within them.
Exactly, and it leaves you with that lingering, pretty unsettling thought.
Down there in Alappuzha, with the moonlight shining on the backwaters, Raghav's doll sits in its case. And the stories, they keep saying it watches, and anyone who disrespects it, well, they might just find out if the curse is real. What does that persistence tell us about stories, about fear, and about those blurry edges where history and legend become something genuinely chilling?
Something to definitely think about.